New Delhi is hosting the big AI summit. There are some issues because the traffic is a mess, but behind all of that is a great advantage and blessing, which is that some of the topmost leaders of the tech community, not just AI, but the entire tech community, the community that runs businesses for which tech is essential. They are in New Delhi. New Delhi today has the largest number per capita of tech people or tech experts or tech domain leaders than any place in the world. I suspect even more than parts of the Silicon Valley. And among them is the gentleman I'm speaking with today, David Zapolsky, who's Chief Global Affairs and Legal Officer at Amazon.com. Amazon has a big footprint in India.
We do, yes. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thanks for being here. Tell me about yourself a little bit because your journey is very interesting because you are a lawyer, right?
I was trained as a lawyer, yes.
Yeah.
And I started in private practice.
Yes.
I worked for the government. I was a prosecutor for a while, and then I worked at law firms. And then 26 years ago, I had the opportunity.
You were a prosecutor in Brooklyn.
Brooklyn, New York, yes.
That must have kept you busy.
It did. It was a very, there was a lot of crime in Brooklyn back then, and it was a real education, meeting victims, seeing how the police system works. I learned a lot, and it was a great job to start my career.
Because Brooklyn got gentrified since.
A little bit, yep.
Little bit.
There are neighborhoods that I would not walk in 1988 when I started that are now so expensive that people can't afford to live there. So it's been a long journey for Brooklyn, and it's
and white collar defense.
Yes, I went from the prosecutor's office to a law firm where I did white collar defense. So people who were accused of business crimes, mostly representing companies and corporations whose employees had committed fraud or crimes, helping navigate the criminal justice system from the other side.
So how does that experience work for you at Amazon? I apologize for honking. Honking is our national pastime.
I'm totally used to it. In fact, I got used to it in Brooklyn. So,
and if you think this is, in that case, if you think this is not enough, you should go to Chennai. Chennai is the honking capital of India.
I'll try that. I think that the thing that I learned most from those early years as a prosecutor and as a white collar attorney was the ability to quickly analyze the dynamics of a dispute, or to figure out what the risk was to an organization and figure out how to get through it. In my current job, there's lots of occasions that I have around the world where we have disputes with other parties. And the ability to understand what those disputes look like and how they would play out through the court system and advise the company about how to resolve those disputes before they go bad is a skill that I've maintained and that I first developed when I had those jobs.
So 20 years at Amazon. Who spends 20 years in any place these days? So what's it that excites you at Amazon?
Well, when I started, we had just gone beyond being a bookstore, and we were getting into selling other products online. And we had just gone from being only in the US to having 2 small online stores in Europe. And so when you look over the course of the time I've been there, you think about all the new things that we've done, from international expansion to places like Asia and India, to selling so many more categories of products, to making content, video content, getting into the movie business, making local content around the world, to making devices like the Kindle. Every year, it seems like we're doing something new, and the company is really programmed in its DNA to constantly try new things and to innovate and try to explore things that customers might want. And so what's exciting about it is that it's never the same any year. When I took over as general counsel, 13 years ago, after doing the litigation there. I wouldn't have dreamed that we would need a team of lawyers to figure out space law, because we were going to be launching satellites to build an internet service from space. And I wouldn't have dreamed we would need lawyers that specialize in AI.
Because you are in competition with Musk there.
Yes, we're in competition with everybody.
Right.
But yes, in the internet satellite
Yes.
business, we compete with Starlink,
Yeah.
and these are opportunities that are so large that I think there will be multiple winners in every one of these spaces.
Because given how much Amazon is doing, I think almost every urban resident, at least in India, is touched by Amazon in such way. We, for example, are hosted by Amazon servers.
Mhm.
So everybody's life, in everybody's life, Amazon features in some ways. Should Amazon be doing all of this stuff or focusing in some areas? Because some people see Amazon as an online selling business. Some see it as entertainment business. It can be a publishing business.
Well, the primary goal that we have
It's a satellite business.
Yeah, I mean, the primary goal that we have as a company is to figure out what customers need and want, and see if we can provide that in a new and interesting way that we think they'll like. And so that journey, just following our curiosity and our sense of invention, takes us into all different directions, because customers need lots of different things. You have different kinds of customers. You have businesses who are customers of our cloud business and are using our AI services. And you have consumers out there who are buying what they need from our store. And to the extent that we're successful in doing that, we're fulfilling our mission. And so we think we can do that in a lot of different ways. And as long as we see a customer need and we think we can serve it, we're usually game to try.
Yeah. So, what's the day one culture like at Amazon? It's such a large company.
Well, we try to preserve this culture that makes us receptive to going in these new directions, that gives us the ability to make quick decisions, to act like a startup. Even though we have 1.5 million employees around the world, we do our very best to act like a startup. We try to keep our organization flat, to not be hierarchical, to take input from anybody in the organization, and to make decisions without a lot of bureaucracy. And that takes work at our size. We have to constantly rethink what our processes are like, so that we can maintain that culture. And that's one of our big jobs as a leader, is to look for ways we can reinforce that culture. Because when we're doing it right, we can make quick decisions, and we can go in new directions, and we can follow new innovations to compete for customers. And that's really the way we try to operate. And it's one of the things that keeps it so interesting.
Your HR must have a hard job.
They do. They have a hard job, but we have fantastic associates at Amazon at every level, and we all follow some leadership principles that give us a common vocabulary about the values that we think are important to do this business successfully for customers. Things like learn and be curious, be open to new technology. Things like take ownership of your job, act like an owner of the company, because everybody is. Things like the ability to move quickly, that's a value. And so if everybody is thinking in those ways and trying to act in those ways, then we can do more together collectively, more quickly and more effectively, so that we can serve customers.
This is not your first time in India.
No, I've been here about a half a dozen times.
Yeah. So tell me, what interests you about India, and how has India changed over this half a dozen visits? When was the first one?
Yeah.
I can also then figure out the trajectory of change.
So, first of all, I think India is a fascinating place. I'm a big reader of history and listener to history podcasts, and I think it's such a rich set of cultures, and with such an interesting and rich history. I always enjoy learning more about this region of the world. I first came here in 2013, right about the time that our online store launched.
Right.
And I visited Delhi. I visited Mumbai. Went to Bangalore, and then my wife actually came with me, and we went to Rajasthan and Jaipur. And it was amazing. It was overwhelming, and I've been to India, a number of times since then. Also gone to Hyderabad and a few other places, um, and I mean the technological savvy of the country has just grown exponentially. The adoption of technology here is eye-opening, and it really, I think, is probably unparalleled in terms of the number of people who are now online, who now have mobile phones, who now have access to the internet in ways that are empowering and that have the ability to really change and improve people's lives all around the country. And so that trajectory, which allows the country to improve its infrastructure, to improve the basic living conditions of everybody in the country, is really evident over the 13 years that I've been coming here. We support, we're one of the biggest investors in India. We've invested over $40 billion. We've committed to invest $35 billion over the next several years. Between direct employees and indirect employees and seasonal employees, we support 2.8 million employees here. And so, the process of doing that, of growing to that scale, has been, has been a hard one, and teams have worked incredibly hard. But I think we're very proud of what we've been able to accomplish in partnership with the Indian government. And we're really looking forward to continuing to grow here and expand.
You have a sizable domestic competition also coming up in India.
Yeah, there's no country in the world where we don't have sizable domestic competition.
But this is very sizable.
Oh yeah,
You are up against a very large conglomerate,
yeah, and I think that's the case. We have competition in
which
every
doesn't
segment.
like to lose.
Well, no one likes to lose, and we're going to compete as vigorously as we can for the loyalty of customers. But that's part of the game. And retail, is one of the most competitive spaces in the world, in every country. And so we're used to that. We welcome that. We're going to win some, and they're going to win some, and customers are going to benefit from that competition.
Because India is a country of offline buying.
Right. Only about 5 or 6% of all buying is online.
Yeah.
And so most of the retailers.
Because we are a touchy-feely civilization, we want to see things.
Well, that's why one of our priorities in building the business here has been to work with offline stores,
Right,
to get them online so that they can sell to customers that may not be local. And so, at this point, we have over 1 million sellers that, and in India, unlike some other places, the regulations governing retail do not allow us to sell products directly.
Yes, yes.
So all of the products that you get on Amazon.in are third-party products. And so we work very hard to recruit mom and pop stores all around the country, to show them the benefits of selling online to customers all around the country. And in fact, we've been able to be successful in creating export markets. And up to date, we've cumulatively enabled $20 billion in exports from small and medium-sized businesses in India. We're looking to grow that over the next 4 years to 80 billion. And so that's a significant mark on the world that we can help sellers and stores in India reach.
I'm a latter-day convert to online shopping, all thanks to COVID.
Thank you for being a customer.
All thanks to COVID. I think we thought we'd buy a big TV and nobody was going to shops anymore. So I downloaded the app, learned to use it, and that was our first purchase. And yet, the idea is still to go to a shop and buy something. So anything you can buy at a shop is still buy at a shop. In a country like India, which has so many people employed in running offline business, how do you see coexistence?
Well, I think we work together with the offline businesses so that they can expand their reach and sell far beyond where they could sell locally, right? That is one of the keys to the online selling, is that you can buy from a seller all the way across the country who you couldn't visit and go see their shop. And we're providing more and more tools to make it easier and easier for sellers to get online, to list their products, and to reach a much broader market. One of the things that I think AI is helping us do is create new ways of listing products, of managing an online account that don't require any technical knowledge at all. AI can help sellers do that job, and we're very excited by lowering the barrier for sellers to sell their products online and off.
Do you see a generational shift? For example, when my generation goes, the next one will be much more online, and the next one, your team and mine, standing in front of you, much younger than me, much younger than you also.
Younger than me, for sure.
Yeah, much younger, way younger than me. I don't think they go to, most of them don't go to a store for anything now.
Well, I think there's always, the new generations are always going to be more technologically advanced than the older ones. I still don't quite know how to use some of my remote controls, right? You have to ask your kids how to use them. But I think, one of the things where India has really been an innovator is quick commerce. The notion of getting products within an hour or 10 minutes is revolutionary, and was really originated here, and is an offering that we're going to compete against as well. But it's a very, very vibrant and dynamic set of competitors who are seeking to serve customers of all ages with new and innovative services. And that's just one example of where I think maybe the younger generation is led.
You just mentioned AI. You said AI is helping you. You keep talking about agentic AI. So what is it that excites you? And also explain for people like me,
Right.
What is agentic AI?
Well, when large language models started to become popular, like ChatGPT,
Right.
The first usage were people typing in questions or asking questions and getting answers, and maybe coding. But agents allow you to ask a large language model to do something on your behalf. And so agents can go out and access other resources. If it's doing research, it can access different research sources. If it's booking travel reservations, it can go out and interact with travel booking agencies. So agents can extend the reach of large language models and AI to do more for an individual. And so, one example are coding agents that we use at Amazon. Coding agents can increase the productivity of one expert software developer by basically increasing their reach. We've got a fairly prominent story within Amazon of a significant software product where a senior developer and a small team of other senior developers who were very well versed in agentic AI were able to use coding agents to rewrite the code base for an entire product in a fraction of the time that anyone thought possible. And so those sorts of step changes in productivity, in efficiency, can really be a powerful use of agentic AI. And we haven't even scratched the surface yet of what that's going to look like.
You do AI summits all over the world. What do you find different about this one, and how do you rate this?
What's different about this is the size.
That you can be sure of with anything in India.
Well, it's impressive, and it's pronounced. It's intentional. In some of the other summits that I've seen or observed, it's intentionally kept smaller. There are exclusive sessions where only certain people are allowed to go in, and the Modi government has made an intentional decision to open this up and to invite a much broader population, which I think is very smart. It really, I think, reflects a cultural embrace of this technology and a desire to make it available to everybody, to improve everybody's lives, which is possible. And so it makes the summit feel very different, but I think it also sends a message to the whole country about the importance of this technology and the potential for improving lives.
You just talked about investing in India. You said Amazon has invested about 40 billion. You will
Yep.
bring another 35 billion. Uh, what's this opportunity and how are you going to be investing this?
Well, India is one of the largest economies in the world, and with one of the largest populations,
And growing, and
and
growing,
growing,
and growing.
and becoming more and more technologically
Yeah, as it grows,
sophisticated.
people will have more surpluses.
Right, and so it's a huge market. It's also got a government that has leaned forward into adopting technology. Unlike some areas of the world, I think the Indian government has approached regulation of new technology in an appropriate way with some care and looking for ways to be targeted to make sure that potential harms that might result from technology are avoided, but not with a heavy hand. And when you approach regulation that way, you don't inhibit innovation. You enable innovation to be spread and adopted throughout the country. And so that kind of environment is one that makes India a very attractive place to continue investing and expanding our business, both in the stores and in the cloud and as we go forward in AI.
We are staying with India for a while. You deal with many countries in the role that you have at Amazon. How do you find India different? Better, worse, if you want to say? You can be diplomatic.
It's different. It's unique. One of the games I play with when I with myself when I visit various parts of the world is to try to compare cities and say, oh, this city is like Mexico City, or this city is like, and there are so many cities and places in India that just don't have an analog that I can't compare to anywhere else. With New Delhi being one of them, it's just very unique. It's rich culture, it's diverse population and diverse cultures. It's amazing food. I always love coming for the food, and I think it's it doesn't have, at least when we started, it didn't have a mature technology sector. Uh, the 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 industry was brand new and has really, I think, not been burdened by a lot of legacy technology that might have prevented adoption of newer technologies. And so it's a very dynamic, very fast-moving environment, and one that makes it a very exciting place for innovation.
There are messier sides to all our cities, like all big cities. And I apologize to you, to anybody coming in for our air quality, for example. And every city has bad traffic. But Indian cities also have big pluses. For example, the big Indian cities have the least amount of street crime for crowded cities in the world. So there are big positives as well, particularly on India's approach to AI. What do you find that's interesting or that's new or that is innovative, avoidable, whatever?
Well, I mean, the diversity of the ecosystem here is second to none, and so there are so many innovators using AI to do new things. We have one customer, Eka Care, which is using AI to basically minimize the administrative burden for doctors and nurses. To automatically write prescriptions, to automatically write medical records, so that they can use more of their time actually treating patients. We have a customer, DigiYatra, which probably everybody's heard of, which has revolutionized the way that people can get through airports when they're traveling, reducing the time to get through security using proprietary and privacy-friendly facial recognition from 15 seconds to 5 seconds. Those are sorts of the types of changes that are really dynamic and happen very quickly here, and that can really improve people's lives. We've been honored to partner with the Indian government as it's built out its digital, public infrastructure. So many services that the government has stood up.
That's a truly remarkable story for India.
It really is, and it's
and everybody's learned to use it. The poorest people, people with very basic knowledge, they've all learned to use it.
And we've been privileged in AWS Cloud to partner with the government and host some of those services. but the transformative effect of being able to enable payments for everybody and able to build on top of that is really makes the potential for adding AI into that mix incredibly exciting and dynamic.
So every country is now trying to take advantage of AI. A lot of it will be based on global platforms, global, globally controlled platforms. And this is a very fraught world right now geopolitically. It's in some ways getting more unipolar, in other ways getting multipolar, and
Yeah.
people are straining. Countries are straining. Sovereignty has become a big issue from globalization. From globalization, we move to sovereignty now. How do the countries reconcile the ideas of sovereignty, sovereign control, and then dealing with these completely multinational, non-state platforms?
Yeah. Well, so two levels to the answer to that question. First of all, I think governments and customers need to really think about what they need from technology in order to assure that they maintain control and that they maintain ownership of that technology. And so one of the things we've tried to do at Amazon is design our cloud services so that they're sovereign by design. And so if you are a customer or you're a government and you want to run a workload in the cloud and you want to make sure that only you have access to your data, we provide tools like encryption that will enable you to prevent anybody from, including Amazon, from seeing that data or using that data unless you give somebody a key to it. And if you want to control where your data is stored, you can do that too. We have, by building large data center regions in Hyderabad and Mumbai, we give people the opportunity to keep their data in the country and to assure that it won't move anywhere else. And so that's the first thing, is defining what you need and what you mean by technology. And if you have the tools available, then that should assure you that whatever sovereignty needs you have are going to be met. The second answer to that question is sort of kind of dawned on me this week. When you look at the arc of history and you look at the way nations have worked together, there's no question in my mind that the partnership between India and the United States, is going to be a lasting one. And even if there are geopolitical tensions at times, the historical arc has been that, and I can't imagine a future where the Indian government and the American government, aren't solid allies and technological partners going forward. And so when you make these investments, they're generational investments. We build, if we're going to spend $35 billion to build infrastructure in this country, we're not just relying on the next 4 years or the next 6 years of a politically favorable environment. We need to have confidence that those are going to be useful, and we're going to be able to continue partnering with our partners in India for decades to come. And so we wouldn't be making those investments if we didn't have that optimism and confidence.
Now, coming back to AI, what's your role, Amazon's role, or how do you see it in promoting AI resources, assets, or making them available to countries so they can use it for their own development, their own benefit? Country like India, for example.
Yeah. So we use AI at every level at this
Yes.
point. We think of it in 3 different layers. So we provide infrastructure where people who want to build their own models can use our infrastructure to do so. And we even have developed specialized chips that are cheaper and equally performant with the NVIDIA chips. And we give customers choices as to what to use when they're training models. But most people aren't going to train their own models. So we have this middle layer called Bedrock, which is a service within the cloud that gives companies, that gives governments who are in the cloud the ability to mix and match different models. Amazon makes its own models. They're called Nova. But we also offer in that service OpenAI and Anthropic and Mistral and hundreds of different models, open source and closed source, that we give customers the choice to experiment with and use, customers including governments. And that, the fact that you don't have to train your own models, the fact that you don't have to build your own data centers is what reduces the barrier to governments and enterprise customers.
Do you get asked this question a lot by the Indian government, by your interlocutors on the Indian government side?
Yeah, I think
What you're doing for us?
Yeah, people
by
want to
way
know.
of AI?
People want to know how everybody wants to, not just governments, but customers want to know what can we do with this. And so the first answer is fairly effortlessly, you can come to the cloud and you can use these models and you can experiment with them with the minimum of expense and a maximum of convenience, security, all of the things that come with the cloud. The other thing that we do is we're developing applications on top of that, using the large language models ourselves to do things like make it easier for sellers to list their products, to do things like make it easy for people to come to Amazon and create their own advertising in much cheaper and easy ways. We're doing things like creating shopping assistants, AI shopping assistants that make it easy for hundreds of millions of customers to shop and get information and find the right prices for the products they're looking for. And so we're demonstrating through our own applications how these can be used, and we're making the models available for people to experiment with and to use in their own contexts to improve how they deliver services to their own customers.
I know you get asked this question all the time, but sustainability, resilience, I also hear that just the packaging is one of the largest generators of disposable waste. Uh, how does it affect you,
Yeah.
and what you're doing about it? I met somebody who runs a company in Antwerp, whose entire business runs. He does recycling, but a lot of his turnover is recycling packaging for Amazon products, for
Yeah.
Amazon deliveries.
Well, sustainability is an issue we've cared about for a long time. We've been working for the last 15 years, 20 years to reduce packaging waste. We no longer use single-use plastics in many areas of the world, and we're reducing our use of that. We've made a commitment as a company to be carbon-free, to try to be carbon-free by 2040, which is 10 years ahead of the Paris Agreement. And we're doing all kinds of things to accomplish that. We had a goal to become fully powered by renewable energy by 2030, and we beat that goal by 6 years. We're investing in, we're one of the world's largest corporate purchasers of renewable energy in the world. We have over 700 renewable energy sites, and we're continuing to expand from that to invest in carbon-free sources of energy like nuclear, both small modular reactors and traditional technologies. So we're doing things all over the world to try to continue reducing our carbon intensity.
So, are you investing in small modular reactors?
Yeah, we've got a $1 billion investment in 2 different companies in the U.S. that are working to.
So, are you looking at India for one of those investments?
I'm not sure.
Because we just changed our laws
Yes,
to
I
make
think
precisely that possible.
We're looking to advance that science as quickly as possible. It's not where it needs to be yet to be at industrial scale, but we've got great optimism about that technology, in the years to come. So we're, in terms of data centers, we've done a lot of work to reduce the carbon intensity of those. Our data centers are already 4 times more efficient than on-premises IT. Our chips enable us to run our data centers more or less 15% more efficiently and more sustainably than most data centers. So we're doing things at every level of our business to try to continue that progress. One thing we're doing is we've made a pledge to be water positive everywhere we have data center regions. So we're basically returning more clean water back to communities than we need for the cooling of those facilities. So we're doing things at every level, and sustainability maintains is a really important goal.
We can have a really long conversation. Yeah. We have to ask the last question at some point of time. So let's make it this one. Policymakers all over the world have an issue. Policymakers have an issue how to balance innovation with risk management, because policymakers don't like things that they can't control or they can't recall. what is your solution? You speak for your industry, not just for your company. What's your solution? What does getting that balance right look like?
Well, I think it means starting working closely together, sort of a public-private partnership, so that we're all on the same page about what those risks are. That we have a full understanding of new technology, and that we're sharing that knowledge with each other. And then the second thing is to really focus on what are the principles that we care about, what are the risks that we can really see happening in the real world, and if there's a need to enforce regulation or pass new laws, let's focus on that rather than coming up with a very prescriptive regime of regulations that may affect technology that isn't fully fleshed out yet. And I think the Indian government has approached this in the right way when you compare it to some other parts of the world. And that dialogue continues. And we look forward both in the way that the new data privacy law is implemented and as we look at the principles-based AI regulation that the government is considering. We think that dialogue with industry is one where we can help each other get to the right answer. And that kind of collaboration is one that will encourage more innovation.
Well, you continue your dialogue. We as journalists continue our arguments. So enjoy being in India.
Thank you very
There's
much.
no more fun place than this one.
Oh, well, I can't argue with you there. I'm very happy to be here. And
in fact, now when I travel overseas, I want to come back the same day. I've done speaking visits to America where I spent precisely one night and two on the plane, because I think every day that I don't spend in my country, I'm missing out on something exciting, because news is my life as well. So keep coming back.
I plan on it. Thank you very much.
Wonderful to see you.
Great to see
I
you.
learned so much.